Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Making It Personal is provided by Sarah Vocations Ministry. Learn more at joinserra.org.
Making It Personal with Bishop William Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and iowacatholicradio.com.
Welcome to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. I'm Jean Till, and on today's show, we're visiting with Bishop James Golka, Bishop of the Diocese of Colorado Springs.
Good morning, Jean. Here we are already approaching the middle of April. Hope you and John got your taxes done. Here, I don't.
Yes. You know, it's one of those things you just love doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's why I depend on help. I mean, here's the pile of stuff, and please make sense of it, and give me a refund too if that's possible.
That's always good.
So with supporting the Catholic Tuition Organization,
yes,
it's usually a likely endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that still is an opportunity for our people. Your former
if you pay income tax, you don't have to.
Yeah. So but abiding in the graces of the Easter season, and of course confirmation figures prominently in that as the Holy Spirit comes to so many. Here we are, the 13th. We'll be spending today St. Joseph in Des Moines on the east side early, and then head up north a little bit to St. Mary, Holy Cross, and Elkhart. And, they finished the bridge there. I think I can actually go get to the confirmation.
It's only been a couple of years
without a tractor, so it'll be good. And then on over to the west to the KC State Banquet in Council Bluffs. So it'll be a whirlwind day. I'm not a private pilot, so I will be pounding the concrete there as well. But good to be with the brothers. And then St. Patrick Audubon and Saints Peter and Paul next Wednesday for confirmation. And St. Patrick and Imogene have a unique invitation. Now that Luke Mohan is a seminarian at St. Joseph Seminary in Dunwoody, Bishop Massa invited me to perform the institution of lectors. So it'll be a small cohort, but a very meaningful celebration that ever growth and union with the Word of God, and to minister that as one of those steps toward the ordained ministry. So it'll be a whirlwind trip to the Big Apple, but we won't get in any trouble because it's less than 24 hours.
Okay, good.
All right, so I promise that, but it'll be good to be with them. So happy to have Bishop James Golka with us. By God's providence, we ended up sitting at next to each other at the U.S. Bishops' Conference meeting a couple years ago, and coming to learn of his Midwestern roots and all that's here. So Bishop Golka, happy Easter and good morning to you.
Good morning. It's great to be with you all. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, so our listeners in the Spirit Catholic Radio Network certainly will know of you as a priest originally of the Grand Island Diocese. Certainly many roles that are there. But for us in the Iowa Catholic Radio side of the river, also some connections with the Des Moines Diocese. Could you share that with us?
Yeah, thanks. I'm one of 10 children, and I have two sisters that lived just north of Council Bluffs around Crescent. And one of those sisters passed away a year ago, so God bless her soul. And I have two brothers in Omaha, and I myself went to Creighton University in Omaha. And so many Iowa folks find their way to Creighton, and so I have many good friends, especially from Des Moines and Dubuque area. So I spent much time in Iowa and enjoyed it. It reminds me of Nebraska.
Okay, and we love having you there. So, if you want to cross over to the Eucharistic Revival coming our way in June, that would be wonderful to have you join us. But at Creighton, were you thinking about priesthood then? And did the Jesuits appeal to you at all? Or was it, when did diocesan priesthood come into the picture?
That's great. Probably when I was in 8th grade, my older brother went to seminary for a year. He discerned out, and that made an impression on me. So it's been in me for a long time. And when I went to Creighton, I wanted to study theology from day one because I wanted to work in the church. And my mom at that time was a director of religious education for our local parish. She went on to teach theology at Grand Island Central Catholic for years. And so I had good models around me of people involved in the church. And after Creighton, I did a year with the Jesuit Volunteer Corps up in South Dakota. And I joked that on day one at Creighton, I was a theology major. Day two, I added philosophy. And day three, there were 10 Jesuits at my door asking if I wanted to be a Jesuit.
They don't miss a beat. Their scouting system is very extensive. So
they're very good at that. And so the Jesuits taught me how to pray and how to discern. I appreciate that a ton. But I never felt called to religious life. I never felt called to a community of men. I always felt called to parish life. And so that's the community that kind of animated me, to be with people from baptism to their funeral. And so the Jesuits supported me in that. They recognized early on that I had a different calling and supported me, even paid for me to go visit a seminary one time. So
tremendous. So you've stirred our intrigue here. But Jean, I'll kick it back to you as we will come back.
When we return, we'll be visiting with Bishop James Golka, Bishop of the Diocese of Colorado Springs. You're listening to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network.
The Eucharist, the source and summit of our Catholic faith. Come, celebrate with us the presence of Christ in the Eucharist at our Spirit Catholic Radio EWTN Catholic Answers Symposium, a 2-day conference, 5 different theologians, 5 different perspectives on the Eucharist, April 26th and 27th at St. Robert Bellarmine in Omaha. Tickets are only $25 at spiritcatholicradio.com/April.
Welcome back to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. On today's show, we're visiting with Bishop James Golka, Bishop of the Diocese of Colorado Springs.
So, Bishop Golka, thank you. You referred to your mom as a woman, great steeped in the faith and communicating that as a teacher in so many ways. And so your respect for women in the church and the calling to diocesan priesthood, where so many of those with whom we collaborate are women, in fact. No issues with women in that for you.
Yeah, I'm very blessed. I'm from a big family. My mom was one of 13 children, and so I've got about 60 first cousins on her side of the family, and just many women and men who are committed to the faith. I'm blessed in my own personal family. I think each of my 8 siblings who are alive are practicing Catholics, and that just doesn't happen all the time.
No. Wow. Answer to any parents' prayers in that way. Was this a rural setting? Was it a farm background, or were you in town? Or?
Yeah, I grew up in Grand Island, which the 3rd biggest city in Nebraska, but it's just 50,000 people. And both my mom and dad grew up in farming communities. My dad owned a farm, my mom in a little town. And so we weren't farmers. My dad worked for the government as a civil engineer, and so we always thought we were city kids.
And again, I can identify with you. Living on the edge of Ames, Iowa, with the hog farm to the west a mile, blowing in its fragrance toward us. So applying ultimately to the Grand Island Diocese and parish priesthood. Any detours there, or was it kind of an unbroken path?
No, pretty straight. I was in South Dakota working on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation when I felt the call for sure. Applied to the Diocese of Grand Island. That's my home. I never considered any place else. Then I went to St. Paul, Minnesota for 4 years of seminary, and then returned to Nebraska and served mostly in western Nebraska. Was a priest there for 27 years, very blessed years, until I got the call, as you did, Bishop, to a different way of life.
But still, that pastor's charism, which for you had been well formed, for me was maybe coming and expressed in a different way. And just to make mention of the Pine Ridge Reservation, we in the Des Moines Diocese remember fondly Father David Smith and his time there and his great love for the indigenous people, the Native Americans, that he carried over to them before his passing a couple of years ago. So,
Father David was there when I was there, so I knew him well.
Yeah. What a great sense of humor, able to laugh at himself and the human condition in so many ways. You wore lots of hats in those 27 years. I mean, Director of Ongoing Formation of Clergy, Youth Retreats, Liturgy, Personnel Board, Finance. It's just about every possible thing in your toolkit there, that you could do. Also,
cross-training. We call that cross-training.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, formation really takes off once you're ordained, right? Those guys who think it's done, but that's where I think the action happens. Also within that, I came to know a diocesan exorcist. Now, how does that happen? And was this something you felt drawn to, or was proposed to you, or a little both?
Yeah, it's a good question. Pope Francis, early in his pontificate, asked every diocese to make sure they had an active exorcist. And I think that's something we always kind of gave talk to, but never really did. And so Pope Francis speaks not just about the reality of evil, but the presence of Satan and demons, and just to be aware of that. And I didn't know much about that. And after I went to Grand Island to be rector of our cathedral, Bishop Hannafelt asked me to attend a conference or two just to discern whether that might be something I could do. And I truthfully, I came back from the first conference and I told him, I hate this. I don't want to do this.
Was this the Pope Leo Institute in Chicago? Or
Correct.
Yeah, okay,
yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so the U.S. Bishop set up that conference as a training for exorcists, and I just went to their summer conference and came back, and I said, I don't like this, but I feel like God's inviting me to this. And so it was over 2 years. 40 days of training, 4 different 10-day sessions in Chicago. And I learned a ton. And when I would come back from a 10-day training, there was always something waiting for me. So there's deliverance ministry and there's exorcism ministry. And deliverance is people who are oppressed by something evil. And I think, frankly, in our culture, that's almost all of us. Mm-hmm. So there's some oppression coming somewhere from the culture. And so just to discern that and be aware of that. And so deliverance ministry can be a full-time job. And in Grand Island, it became very big, very active. And then the exorcism ministry is very rare because a full-time possession is a really rare thing. But that ministry, too, can be time-consuming because it can be a year to 5 years or longer to help people be freed from whatever might be in them. And I tell people, I'm not afraid of the devil. I'm afraid of not looking at Jesus. So our goal is look at Christ, and you'll be okay. And one of the most helpful parts for me in that training was Jesus is the exorcist, and the goal isn't deliverance. The goal is conversion. Just help people get back to Jesus, and he'll take care of them. And that has saved me. That has been kind of a hallmark for me, is to hold on to that. And I've grown in my trust in Jesus and just knowing him and his power to deliver and to heal. And so I'm very humbled by that.
I mean, because this could be daunting, and your rigorous, intensive training. I mean, that too, whether that's a kind of spiritual boot camp or not, but sensing ever more the call to holiness, your own call to conversion. I mean, that if one is going to be in the arena, on behalf of Jesus, trying to invoke his power, to deliver and free people, do you feel like you become a marked man in that?
I do. And interestingly, since becoming bishop, it's a little bit different. And so I feel I haven't been spiritually attacked so much as since I've been a bishop. And so there's a sign that when we're about to do something really good, or rather Christ is about to do something really good through us, the evil one doesn't want that. And so that's often when I get attacked, is right before Christ is going to do something good. And so, again, it's not fun being spiritually attacked. It's kind of desolation that comes with that, or just a sense of hopelessness. And so it's a reminder and kind of a red flag that says, look for Christ, and he's going to do something well here. So hold on to that. Coming to the diocese as a bishop, I'm grateful for that training, because I would not have recognized some of the things that I see now, and have been able to identify and pray with a group of people about some of the darkness that was present in this diocese, and being able to bring the light of Christ to drive that away has been humbling and really hope-filled, too, for me.
So what would be, I don't want you to, in any way, out anybody or anything, but what would be one area where you felt that there was a pocket of darkness that enlisting the people of God together to try and drive that out?
Yeah, good question. Kind of multifaceted, but I would say that there's a woundedness that has happened and that has been of the evil one. People in the church who've been wounded, and so to be able to identify that, listen to their pain, and then again to bring Christ to it. So frankly, I have about 10 or 12 priests, and once a month I ask them to pray with me. They pray from their own chapels, but on the same day, just kind of prayer of exorcism and deliverance and healing over the whole diocese. And hearing from those priests, they say they too have been attacked, but they also recognize just a real sense of light and hope around them that they did not feel before. So it's a ministry not to do by yourself. You always have a team around you, and so I'm grateful for that.
Oh, no, what an inspiration. And I may be borrowing Bishop Golka from your, certainly we have priests who are very committed to their prayer, and we've talked with the Seven Sisters, but I think that would be the dimension. Yeah. I don't know which author it was, but she really commented that priests should be alert even as they go into every weekend, and all the sacramental duties, particularly in the Easter season, and baptisms and confirmation and, all First Holy Communions, that they would experience some kind of attack, and that the temptations to distraction or spiritual dispersal, that this is a maybe a subtle but a real phenomenon that is not infrequent, so that's something that would be there.
I would agree, and I would say one last thing too. That one seasoned exorcist taught me was one confession is more powerful than 10 exorcisms. So the sacraments of our church are real and efficacious and powerful. And if Catholics would know that and understand that, we would be different. And so I encourage you, continue to go to confession regularly. That's one of the best protections you can bring to you and your family. So if you're afraid of evil, go to a priest or a deacon and ask their blessing. But just practice the sacraments. Regular communion, regular confession will do more for you than you know.
No, and as we're, on the heels of the Divine Mercy celebration, many people availing themselves of the sacrament. But no, to make this a regular practice, if not monthly, at least maybe bi-monthly or even quarterly, if that's not been people's practice. So tell us about the Diocese of Colorado Springs. You think about, Iowans and Nebraskans here on the prairie and the plains, but kind of a happening place. Can you tell us a little bit about your diocese?
Yeah, thanks. It's unique. When I first arrived here, my home literally is up against the Rocky Mountains in the foothills, and from Nebraska, I came to appreciate the horizons, to see the horizon in all four directions, and here I felt a little confined because there's this big mountain to my west, So,
feel claustrophobic a little bit?
I did. Yeah. But after about 6 months, I started realizing that mountain is really beautiful, and so the diocese is growing. Our population is growing quickly, so kind of the opposite of many dioceses. Many dioceses are consolidating, and we probably need to add one, if not two more parishes in the next 5 years. So we're planning to do that. Here in Colorado Springs itself, we probably have to move a couple parishes because our population is just growing so much east of us. And we have 5 military bases around us. And so 5?
Oh, my goodness. I think of the academy. Yeah. I did not know. Wow.
Yeah, there's an Air Force, a couple of bases, Space Forces here, an Army camp. And so it brings a different sense, too, that many retired military have settled here. So you have relatively young families, very talented, committed Catholics who want to use their gifts for the church. So it's a unique place. I think it's full of opportunity. I'm touched by the number of intentional Catholic families we have here, and it's fun to be around them and to see what they do. So it feels like God.
So there's joy there too. It's not just a kind of military mindset of let's do this.
Yeah, exactly. And we have over 90 active deacons, and many of them are ex-military. So they came to me early on and said, Bishop, we follow orders and we get stuff done. Just tell us what to do.
Music to your ears.
Yeah, really.
And do they really live that out? Now, here's Bishop. Bishop, this is what you need to do. Okay. So, and of course, in your own humility, I'm sure you're a great listener for them as well. Some diversity. I believe you're a Spanish speaker there, and other Asian or other cultures present.
Yeah, thanks. We have a Vietnamese parish, we have a Korean parish, and we have Spanish masses in about 6 or 7 of our parishes. And I don't speak Vietnamese or Korean, but I do speak Spanish, and love being with those cultures. And it's just very humbling and kind of beautiful for me just to see the Church universal. We have many Filipinos in our diocese, and some Samoans, and so it's fun to see the diversity and beauty of kind of God's kingdom. I love to celebrate Mass in Spanish. I'm always humbled because I can speak it, but I'm not fluent. Probably the same as English, if you will. But people say, Bishop, we understand you because you speak kind of like a second grader. So I laugh at that.
Isn't that
compliment?
Isn't that true? And then how many people love school masses? Grandparents, love school masses because the message really resonates and comes through with a simplicity that, for myself, is always a testimony of the Holy Spirit because it would not be my natural disposition, unfortunately, even though I'm asking for that gift. But no, I think, just as I've come to interact with you, that you're a man without guile in that way, and I'm not trying to build you up, but, a sense, as you say, that call that this is where God would have you be, did even in the midst of the pandemic and all that kind of threw many of us younger bishops for a loop?
Yeah, and you probably know this too. I joke and I say that I thought I trusted God totally, then he made me a bishop. So you have to learn it all over again. And so when I arrived here, and I was ordained a year or so after you, and so the pandemic had kind of lessened and the restrictions were lifted, and so at the ordination mass that I attended, the church was packed with people. I had about 150 family members present there, and it's beautiful that way. But it is a lot of learning and trusting, okay, God, this is where you want me, so I'm going to trust you. So you have to show me why you brought me here. Show us what you want us to do. And it's really fun to watch God show us what God wants us to do.
Mm-hmm. And again, your collaboration. Were you able to sustain a spiritual director, or did you have to find a new spiritual director?
Good questions. Yeah, I found a new one. I decided I did not want to do a Zoom or online virtual. I wanted to be in person. So Denver is just an hour drive north of us, and there are many qualified spiritual directors there. So I thought one out and try to go about every 6 weeks, and that's been helpful to me. What
a great rhythm for you as well. So a young diocese, the 10 counties, but as the population continues to explode, we want to hear a little bit more about that and your whole take about, what is this moment for us, this evangelical moment, Pope Francis on synodality, and how are some of these things converging? But Jean, I'll better kick it back to you.
Well, stay with us as we continue our conversation with Bishop James Golka, Bishop of the Diocese of Colorado Springs. You're listening to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and the Spirit Catholic Radio.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio is provided by the Sarah Vocations Ministry, including the St. Sarah Club of Des Moines and the Sarah Club of Council Bluffs. Sarah is an apostolate of the Worldwide Catholic Church dedicated to fostering and supporting priesthood and religious vocations. Sarahs strive to accomplish their mission through prayer, fellowship, and service to the bishop, priests, sisters, and all in religious formation, and in doing so to increase their own holiness. Learn more at joinsarah.org, joinserra.org. Thank you, Sarahs, for your support of Iowa Catholic Radio.
Welcome back to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen.
So thank you again, Bishop Golka. We talked about the diversity within the diocese and beyond the formal kind of Catholic community. It's kind of known, in my impression, as Colorado Springs as a kind of bastion of Christian evangelicals. And Dr. Dobson and others.
Focus on family.
How is that something that you interact with or collaborate in any way, or is there just a kind of spirit of we're kind of on parallel paths? How does that work, and does that serve to awaken an evangelical spirit among the Catholic community?
Yeah, those are good questions. I have some interaction with those groups. I meet regularly with the Mormon leadership, and Young Life has a Catholic branch, and their headquarters are here just 2 blocks down from our office. And so the evangelical sense, I think Catholics do kind of have a sense that we can't just go through the motions. We have to know our faith and be ready to kind of account for it. So that is here also. A little aside, I make my way to the Air Force Academy from time to time, and this past summer, when the new cadets showed up, there's about 1,000 of them who show up every year brand new, and they had been here almost 2 weeks, and then on Friday night they had an hour for their religion, and I gathered with a bunch of priests, and for that hour we had about 250 of the cadets came to that hour, and we did adoration and confessions, and the one cadet told me that the Protestant service was the praise and worship music. They wanted them to feel good, and he said that was kind of helpful. And he said, I don't know what you all did here, but that was powerful. I want more of that. He said, I felt Jesus here, and people came back from confession lifted and lighter. And so I left there just kind of thinking that the heart of our faith carries it if we let it. And so the Eucharistic revival is happening. That's been fun in the diocese, and this coming summer with processions coming through Colorado and through Nebraska, through Iowa. There's an awakening, and we don't need to make up stuff new. Just it's already here.
You don't have a master plan you need to impose on all this. No. And perhaps rubbing shoulders with our Father Zach Kautsky of the Diocese of Des Moines, who's there stationed at the military academy and is
he's doing very well,
flourishing in that ministry. Don't steal him from us. Don't get any ideas, Bishop Golka.
Whatever God wants. Right?
All right. Oh, you're more detached than I am. Do you find native vocations surfacing maybe among the ethnic groups, or do you bring in international priests? And how's your rapport? There's a report that Catholic U and kind of put there that the trust level isn't always the best between priests and bishops in our country for various reasons. And just what kind of rapport do you enjoy? And you hinted at that when you talked about the praying, once a month as a kind of exorcism.
Yeah. First of all, for vocations, we're very blessed. Right now we have 17 seminarians. They're all from here. And I'm shocked at where they come from, but I shouldn't be because, God has called them. They're really good men. We get to ordain 3 new priests this coming spring in a couple months.
Congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so I feel blessed to that and just keep on talking about priesthood. And I encourage our priests to be healthy, holy, and happy, and that will do more for the whole diocese than anything. The trust with priests, it takes a while to earn that. Now I was a priest 27 years. I think I trusted my bishop, but it is a different sense. And so especially guys who've been wounded, our priests who had bad experiences with the chantry or whatever it might be, it does take longer. And so I've tried to sit with those men and listen to their story and just offer my support as best as I can.
Wow. And so the healing is not only among the people of God, but among the presbyterate, the priests themselves. So that patience that's there. But, yeah.
It is, yeah. So people, I encourage you to pray for your priest. I think St. John Vianney said there's no such thing as a bad priest, just one for whom enough prayers have not yet been offered. And so I think that's kind of true. So pray for your priests, especially if they're hurting or you notice a woundedness. Pray for them. That will do more than you know.
Wow. Well, what a message of mercy and compassion. That's a nice word to end on. Bishop James Golka, thank you so much. I look forward to running into you in Louisville with the bishops' meeting this June or anyway, but God continue to anoint your ministry.
I appreciate you and your ministry, too. Thank you much.
Well, this has been another edition of Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. Thank you to our guests and to all of our listeners in Iowa, Nebraska, Wisconsin, perhaps Colorado, or wherever you may be listening to Iowa Catholic Radio and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network.
You can hear Making It Personal with Bishop William Joensen every week on Iowa Catholic Radio and iowacatholicradio.com.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Making It Personal is provided by Sarah Vocations Ministry. Learn more at joinserra.org.